Hi, Elena Morettini, Managing Director, Sustainable Business Studio at Globant. Elena, we are very happy to have you on stage today.
Hi, Guilherme. Good morning. Thank you very much for having me within the framework of the Sustainable Leader Forum. A pleasure to be here.
So, Elena, we have heard you talking about CO2 as a new commodity. Can you give us some evidence for such a statement or definition, please?
Well, yes, I think that not only because of its price, which has been steadily increasing in the past 20 years with ups and downs, but in general terms, the trend is very positive. I think that with every industry and every organization having to calculate their CO2 footprint together with water footprint and energy mass balance, the whole world is going to be trading around this element, so this molecule actually. So in that respect, we think that every industry will have to have a plan on how to basically market, how to do carbon pricing around CO2, how to develop strategies around carbon border taxes, climate finance, all around CO2 and its current market. So there is going to be a boost of the Californian and European markets, which are the current one, and there are going to be new mechanisms in terms of emission trading schemes. We know very well that this is on since Kyoto and then Paris with renewed mechanisms, but in general terms, everybody will have to have a strategy on how to offtake, market, exchange, trade CO2. So in that respect, I think that is what is going to be added to the usual commodities we're used to talk and trade about.
Okay, do you reckon that energy and GDP, gross domestic product, are on a decoupling trend? So, I mean, hydrocarbons or consumption and GDP? You know what I mean?
Yes, I think I know what you mean. It's quite of a complex argument and question. What I think is that despite the fact that we don't really know if it's energy consumption leading to economic growth or if it's economic growth that actually impulses energy consumption and the growth of energy consumption, of course, there is a strong relationship still with hydrocarbons and any fossil fuel-based energy. And I think that in that respect, what is very important is that every country, at national level as well as supranational level, we need to have the understanding, the technical understanding of the complementarity between energies or among energies, so that we can draw and plan around specific strategies that will take into account all kinds of different energies. We know that France has been doing that very well, including also nuclear energy. So what I mean by that is that if we have technically solid and knowledgeable cabinets that know how to complement energy among themselves and take them to the strategic planning of GDP growth in national and supranational terms, I think that is where we can actually exploit the full range of energies and try to understand what are the trends that you were saying between GDP, fossil fuels, and economic growth.
Okay, how do you finally define energy transitions? I mean, why do you insist on its plural version finally?
Okay, well, how do I define it? I define it as a very important and revolutionary process, that of energy transitions, that is a transformative social and economic path that should foster the adaptation of all energy systems to new rules of productions, new rules of storage, transportation, distribution, and use of energy. And in that respect, we require the entire spectrum of scientific, technological, and political solutions, all focused to avoiding, reducing, replacing, capturing emissions. So this, to me, is the whole new world of energy transitions. The reason why I insist a lot on the S, it's actually not only me. This comes from the G20 of 2018 in Argentina, where an emerging economy was trying to find a consensus around what is energy transitions today and what does it have to imply and apply to, which is not only renewables, because we need to transition all sorts of energy and all forms of energy in order to have them producing less emissions. So that plural is a plural of somehow inclusion of different solutions to the problem. If we call it one energy transition process, it seems as if everybody, regardless of their geopolitical situation or of their national energy sources, will have to comply with a certain specific process. While processes can be very many, as long as the objective is the same, which is that of decoupling energy production from CO2 or emissions increase. So in that respect, I think that we have to be compliant with the freedom of each one of the different economic realities of countries and geographies, and be very strict in terms of pledges, in terms of objectives that need to comply with the nationally determined contributions, with the national pledge on emissions reduction in general. But as long as an energy system is actually going forward and steadily decreasing its emissions, it should be part of the energy plural transition process.
Okay, very clear. What can you say about the relation between hydrocarbon, energy transition, and GHG?
Again, this is to say, Guilherme, that energy transitions does not only apply to renewable, because actually renewable is the best and cleanest way to produce energy. Before we can give up on any other source of energy, we also need to make sure that the other sources, mainly the hydrocarbon and fossil fuels one, are greener than what they are today. So we really need to apply that process of let's say, cleaner barrels or transparent barrels to the industry that is the most polluting at the moment. So we really need to, we cannot be selective by saying we can only foster clean energy solution today. We need to green and we need to help being cleaner what we're using as energy today in the entire spectrum. So we really need to focus all the technology and effort that we can so that we can produce the gas and the oil that we're still producing today under very clean parameters, way cleaner parameters, and way more transparent parameters. And this is why we tend to talk, or at least I do that, about transparent and green barrels. So low cost, low carbon energy production also from the fossil industry.
It will be my last but not least question for you, Elena. Why do you think we urgently need to move forward in the transition to a low, as you said, to a low carbon or net zero world economy? In your opinion, which industry will play a vital role in this transition? Any leader in your mind? Let us know.
Okay. Why? Well, it's an absolute must. The United Nations and their intergovernmental panel has given us 10 years to act in favor of decreasing emissions. Otherwise, we will not be able to respect the Paris parameters. So the why, it's an imperative in order to have the planet to stay within its physical boundaries in terms of increase of temperature. So we all have to act, and we have 10 years. That has been very clearly established. Which industry? Well, my answer would be all industries need to do that. For sure, the technology industry can help us accelerate that process and can help us invent always newer solutions in order to decrease those emissions. So I think that the technology industry, not only because I pertain to one of that, but because it's the one that is actually helping us having new ideas and accelerating them. But as I said at the beginning, the entire spectrum of of industries need to be involved in this process. And any leader, well, yes, I think that Mark Carney has been who's today the UN Special Envoy for the COP26, to which we're also participating as technology industry. I think that he is the figure to follow, especially because not only he has put human-centered resources in this process, technology in this process, but also the finance. The finance aspect of climate has been put forward by Mark Carney, and I think that climate finance today, it's one of the most important disclosures and processes that we need to follow if we want to reach the net zero economy by 2050.
Thank you very much. We are coming to the end of the discussion. Thank you very much for all those insights from Buenos Aires. Thank you, and we hope to see you again very, very soon at HUB Institute.
Thanks a lot. Thank you very much for this, Guilherme. It's been a pleasure to be here with this forum.